You know that guy, don't you? Well, he was wandering the halls this week, so I pulled him into my office and said, sit down, I want to take your photo. Do you notice what he's got here? Straws. Thank you, Russ. There he is right there. I put the pointer right on you. That's right. So for those of you who weren't here last week, for the season of Lent, we're coming together with the Church of England and the Episcopalians in certain parts of the states as we look at giving up or trying to come to terms with single-use plastics. It's a real issue. Do you agree? Oh, good. I knew you would. Now, we're going back to the UK just for a few minutes here before I get into my message. This is Richard Walker, and he's the managing director of Iceland Foods in the UK. They have 900 stores. They're giving up plastic. Okay? And they deal a lot in seafood, but also, as you can see, lots of produce. And he set a time. By 2023, they're off plastic. This fellow in London is doing the same thing. And there are other supermarket chains that are saying enough's enough. Have you noticed that in our supermarkets, there's a little bit of plastic? Okay? We need to bring about change, people. We need to bring about change. And so this is where it begins, right at the grassroots. Some of the greatest things that have happened in this world began with a single person or a single group, and it mushrooms. So let's be mindful of this. Okay, I'm going to send you this week. I know I sent out an email this week to all of you that have email. And we can send it other ways to those who don't, if you so desire. But I will send you, because I pulled this off of CBC, okay? This is off of CBC. And there's about an 8-minute audio here that you can hear the interview of Richard Walker and this article. I'll send that to you this week. You look at it. Think about it. And when you're out in your supermarket and you're shopping, take a look at the plastic and ask yourself, what can we do? What can we do? Okay. All right. I don't know who puts this here, but thank you very much. Now, I'm going to have to read a few things to you to get this straight. Otherwise, it'll be the long and winding road, okay? All right, now, I'm going to be citing the research of 4 Chinese researchers in Beihang, I don't think I said that right, but that's close, University. They crunched through 70 million tweets. That's a lot. And that were posted on Weibo. Now, that's their Twitter. And there are a lot of people using this. This is just a few years ago. And they were mapping the interactions among users of 4 key emotions that people were expressing in their tweets. Okay? I don't think they call them tweets, but that's what we'll call them. And what they did in their research, they used 4 emoticons that represented 4 different emotions. And you just be thinking what those emotions may be, and I'll show you in a moment or two. And these emoticons, you know what they are, those little faces? These emoticons were used to train a software agent to spot the characteristic language of each emotion in other non-emoticoned tweets. Did you follow that? Good, I'm impressed. It took me a few times to get that. Okay. Now, with this analytic framework, they had a way to characterize the emotions expressed in any given tweet and to map how that tweet was replied and retweeted. How many here are on Twitter? Well, I hold out here, more and more hands go up. Okay, all right. Anyway, it's quite a phenomenon, actually. And then they could look for correlations between the mood of a tweet and the extent to which it was spread in the social network, okay? Because that's how social media works, all these algorithms, okay? All right, here we go. This is a sampling of that research. This isn't 70 million, but this is a sampling of what they get. And so this displays a network of Weibo tweeters, all of whom had at least 30 interactions with each other. Okay? So each point is a tweeter. Each line is an interaction between tweeters. And the colors indicate the dominant sentiment that the tweeter put forth in the time sampled. Okay. 4 emotions. What do you think they were? Anybody? Now, why did I know you were going to say that? Isn't that amazing? Okay, anger. What else? Happiness. Say again. Love. There you go. I can't hear you. Sadness. Okay, let's see what survey says. Okay, all right, here we go. Joy. Note the color. Green. Sadness. Blue. Black is disgust. And of course, anger is red. Now you just look at that red. Huh? Now these correlations, they write, indicate the different sentiments that have different correlations, and anger has a surprising higher correlation than all the other emotions. Okay, contrary to what they were expecting. But anger spreads wider than any other emotion in social media. Anger. Even at what they call 3 degrees of separation. And what that means is that a tweeter reacting to a tweeter reacting to a tweeter reacting to a tweeter reacting to the original tweet. Okay? That's 3 degrees of separation. I did quite well there, don't you think? And there was still a good chance that that last tweet would replicate the original tweet in terms of its vitriol and anger. Now, in this article, they cited this woman. She died 100 years ago this year. And you've heard this phrase. And they said their research supports that. Okay, laugh and the world laughs, and weep and you weep alone. Because they said that sad sentiments appeared to have no influence whatsoever. Social media. This is what they found in their research. Quite amazing. But in looking at her, she was quite a poet. And I like what she said here. Love lights more fires than hate extinguishes. Boy, if we don't need that as a meme today, I don't know what we do. Okay? I put that at the bottom of my Gmail signature block. I liked it so much. It's really true. Really, really true. Tremendous, tremendous lady. Now, this past week I was walking home. And of course, I just live over here. And Hillcrest School. I happened to be walking by the lot as it was emptying of vehicles later in the day. I was going to have an early supper because we had meetings here this week in the evening. And I started chatting up the person who was taking care of directing the traffic. Happened to find out it was the school principal. Jordy Wilcox, is that his name? Walker, that's it, Walker. So she's Wilcox, that's it. Okay, got a lot to keep straight. And anyway, we got talking, you know. I like to talk, have you noticed? It's like Joan Rivers, can we talk? You know, so, and so I said, what's one of your greatest challenges in school today? It's been a while since I've been in high school. Social media. Oh, really? Yeah. And so what's, you know, there are, messages back and forth in class. You know what I mean? He said, no. He says, it's the fighting. It's the anger. It's the vitriol on social media. See, the thing about social media, and I'm going somewhere with this, don't panic. The social media is that you're not there in the presence of the other person. So there's a tremendous freedom to say what you want and let the chips fall where they may. Well, that's terrible. That's terrible. And people misuse social media. Social media can be a wonderful thing. Facebook can be marvelous. But people do misuse it. And they misuse Twitter and all of that. They do. There are certain politicians that use it all the time. God help us. Okay. And you know who Lady Gaga is. Yeah? You know what she says about social media? She says it's the toilet of the internet. You think about it. Some terrible things are done and said and shared through social media. Atrocities are committed and observed through social media. We have work to do, people. Our governments have work to do. Now, this is what I want to talk to you about today for a little while. Because this is what our gospel lection talks about. It's about anger, but this is self-righteous anger. That's a special kind of anger. Self-righteous anger. Ooh, I get the chills when I think about it. Rodney Clapp said this. He says, if emotions were cuisine, self-righteous anger would be the pièce de résistance. The dish we love to linger over and return to time and time again. He says, anger by itself does not taste so good. It's bitter and leaves an aftertaste. On the other hand, self-righteousness, there is the seasoning that makes plain old hamburger anger irresistible. Self-righteous anger goes down smoothly. It makes us feel superior. It elevates us above lesser mortals, not to mention our enemies. And so long as we have it on our plates, the confusing grayness of the wearisome world goes away. It is bracingly, refreshingly clear that we are the good guys and the others are the bad guys. If all this were not enough, self-righteous anger also reheats or retweets. It reheats wonderfully. It tastes almost as fine the second or fifth or 16th time out of the oven. Some people, in their smugness, just keep dishing it out. Self-righteous anger. This is what we find in our gospel here today. Jesus is in Galilee, and he's hanging out with, his people. He grew up in Nazareth. That's in Galilee. He's among his own people. And in these neighborly circumstances, they serve up some righteous anger. They tell him about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. So we have no way of knowing whether or not this atrocity story of the Galileans ever really happened. But what is clear is that there was an appeal to Christ's nationalistic sympathies, nativism. These Galileans, in approaching Jesus, had an agenda. Okay? Jesus is expected to hear this story from them and galvanize in heated moral superiority with his countrymen. Very much against the outsider Romans, those inhuman forces of evil. But the interesting thing is, how did Jesus respond to them? How did he respond? He turns the attention back on his inquirers, his countrymen. These Galileans that you say so suffered at Pilate's hand, do you think they were worse sinners than all the other Galileans? And then he talks about this building, the Tower of Siloam. And he said, what about those people that died when it tumbled to the ground? Were they worse sinners than everybody else? Jesus responds to these rhetorical questions unequivocally. He says, "No, I tell you, but unless you repent, you will perish just as they did." So Jesus didn't tell his countrymen that the occupying Romans were the epitome of goodness. No, he didn't say that. Or that their oppression is anything other than oppression. However, he will not have himself defined by their enemies. He will not partake of self-righteous anger with these fellow Galileans. So as happens so often in the Gospel of Luke, he confronts those who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and regarded others with contempt. So when it comes to judging sin, it is best to look for the beam in your own eye rather than searching for the speck in your neighbor's or maybe even your enemies. So we live in a day today, not so unlike that of the atrocity rumoring Galileans, when everyone wants to blame everyone else. Extremists blame Muslims. White supremacists blame immigrants. The middle class blames the 1%. The right blames the left and vice versa. And fundamentalists blame Hollywood and gays. This is an etching of what we see today in our text. And so here's the story, and I'll bring this to a close, the story of sparing the fig tree that bore no fruit. The owner wanted to cut it down, and the gardener said, "No, don't do that. Let me dig about it. Let me use manure. Huh? Let me see what it'll do." God is very good at giving us second chances. So the question is, are we bearing fruit or are we just taking up space? God bless us this day. Help us as we live in this world to be your light. And may we bear fruit in your name. Amen.